Good morning, everyone. This is Michael Malik here with a severe weather update and discussion. This recorded on May 10th, 2023, recorded on 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot of things to go ahead and talk about today, so let's go ahead and jump straight into everything. Looking at the overall conditions across the United States this morning, we noticed that generally speaking, we have a complex of thunderstorms in two locations, one across portions of Nebraska right now, or across central Nebraska, and then also down here across the southern part of Texas, just near Houston. General complex of thunderstorms, nothing too significant at this period in time. However, we are watching for a greater severe weather threat as we head into today and this afternoon and evening out across portions of Colorado and the north central high plains. Taking a look at the severe weather threat for today, we have a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk for severe storms. We zoom in here. This is roughly from about the Denver metro area all the way into far portions of Nebraska and extreme northwestern Kansas. This is well out of the range of North Platte, Nebraska, and well away from Salina, Kansas, and Wichita. But we also have a level 2 out of 5 slight risk stretching all the way up through Rapid City and all the way down to near Lubbock, Texas, with a marginal level 1 out of 5. All the way from about Midland, Texas through all the way up into portions of southeastern Montana, North Dakota, Montana, and all the way up into Canada, and another separate marginal risk area from about Houston through about Shreveport and then through portions of central Louisiana. The tornado threat for today, again, that 2% down there in that marginal risk area, but the greater threat, that 10% area within this enhanced risk. We actually talked about this yesterday in yesterday's video. If you remember, we talked about the potential for supercell tornadoes and land spouts within this whole area. So there is a higher concentration of tornadoes today, or higher concentration potential for tornadoes within this 10% area, meaning you have a 10% chance of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of a given point. That is a pretty substantial risk for within 25 miles of a given area. So pretty high end parameter space in terms of the risk potential out there for this time of year. It's not every day that you see a 10% area for the Denver area. Hail also could be a very significant potential, 30% again within that enhanced risk area. The potential for some significant hail as well, over 2 inches in diameter, and also the potential for damaging winds from, really Midland, Texas, all the way through Canada, and that separate marginal risk area there. Greatest concentration from about Rapid City through Denver and near Lubbock, Texas for today. If we switch to tomorrow's severe weather threat, we have a slight risk, level 2 out of 5, again from about Oklahoma City through portions of central South Dakota at this point, through about Rapid City and Sioux Falls, Kearney, Nebraska. The tornado potential tomorrow maximized from about Oklahoma City and near El Reno through Wichita, Kansas, and near Garden City along the Interstate 70 corridor there, west of Kansas City, 2% all the way down into near Enid, Oklahoma, and into far southern portion or far northern portions of Texas, and also a 2% chance from about near Springfield and Russellville, all the way through Kearney, Nebraska, and just to the south of Rapid City, really from Rapid City, South Dakota. So a lot of things ongoing today and tomorrow. And then there's also a separate day 3 risk, 2 areas for potential severe weather, one out across Iowa and another one out across portions of far southern Texas. Taking a look here at the water vapor satellite imagery overlaid with the 500 millibar heights, we notice the storm system responsible for the ongoing severe weather threat today. This is a little trough right here where my cursor is on kind of the left side of your screen. This little trough here is actually ejecting eastward today, and we kind of notice that again. You can kind of see the evolution of this trough over the last several hours, and right in this area from kind of near just the Four Corners region, there's enhanced lift ongoing out ahead of the trough's actual axis here, which is roughly this area right through here. So we're seeing a lot of lifting increase out across this area, and as this ejects eastward, there's a lot of dry air right to the south, and you can kind of see that here. If we play the animation again, there's a lot of dry air in the mid and upper level, or kind of in the mid levels here. And this dry air is actually prohibiting a lot of storm development out across this area currently. But this also is going to help to increase the low-level lapse rates in And also with this trough, this is going to help to cool the mid and upper levels, which results in that significant hail potential today. So as we were talking about that 500 millibar trough in the atmosphere, well, we also noticed, taking a look at the 500 millibar winds, that we have increased winds at the base of this trough ejecting into the risk area today. Generally speaking, we have anywhere between 70 and a little peak here of about 90 knot flow on the base of this trough. And we notice that it is going to be ejecting eastward today, and that increased lift and wind in the mid and upper levels will gradually begin to overspread the risk area today. And so that's why I think tonight into tomorrow, we could be dealing with a pretty substantial severe weather threat with all modes of severe weather on the table, including supercell tornadoes, maybe the threat for even a strong tornado or two. And we'll talk about why here in just a second. Looking at the NAM 3 kilometer and the evolution of this 500 millibar pattern, we notice the trough right now that is ejecting eastward. Now we notice that it does weaken with time. However, I want you to notice here, this is by about 0Z this evening, or just about 8 p.m. Eastern time. I think this would be about 7:30 Central time or something to that effect. Or no, I'm sorry, 7 p.m. Eastern Central time. We notice that, again, even though we don't have, let's say, 80 knots of flow at the 500 millibar level ejecting over this area, we still have respectable amounts of between 40 and 50 knots of flow that is ejecting over the part of the risk area today where the greatest tornado threat overlaps. And that actually does continue to spread northward as we progress throughout the early part of the morning hour tomorrow. So there is a corridor for severe weather and potentially significant severe weather today. Again, 500 millibar winds aren't your, typical, 60, 70 knots. However, you don't necessarily need that, and there will be sufficient lifting out here combined with other environmental factors we'll talk about here in a second that I think will help to overcome this lack of 500 millibar winds. Looking at the current dew points and the overall synopsis here, generally speaking, fairly rich moisture, especially down to the south. Now, there's not a huge low-level response out there right now, a dew point of 48 in Denver. However, there's something that I want to kind of point out here is that a dew point of 48 in Denver is not the same as a dew point of 48 in Oklahoma City. The reason being is because, of course, Denver is about 5,000 feet above sea level, and Oklahoma City, well, quite frankly, isn't. So given the fact that Denver is at a higher elevation, the dew points naturally are going to be lower up there. But also there is a dew point of 48 up in Denver is supportive, conditionally supportive for thunderstorms and tornadoes. So I just want to kind of point that out. There's also a nice low-level response that's still occurring across this area, and dew points, especially out across eastern parts of Colorado and through Kansas and Nebraska, are rising quite nicely this morning, and that will only continue to increase as this trough ejects out from the Four Corners and out into the central high plains. Looking here at the HRRR mixed layer instability, we notice that there is going to be some pretty sufficient instability out there, generally on the order of about 1,500, even far to the south, just about 1,000 mixed layer cape here. That's more than sufficient for thunderstorms and certainly more than supportive for strong to severe storms. One of the other things that we're going to take a look here is the 0 to 3 kilometer storm relative helicity. Basically just measures how much shear is in the atmosphere, and we notice that there's actually quite a lot of shear that will be present in the atmosphere, especially as we progress throughout later into the day tomorrow. We notice that we're going to have a lot of shear as we progress throughout tonight into the early part of tomorrow. And this is actually by about 10Z tomorrow, so early morning tomorrow. There's a lot of shear that's going to be across this area, more than supportive for rotating thunderstorms, and certainly more than supportive for tornadoes as well. So no wonder why they gave this area a 10% area today. Now taking a look here at the 850 millibar wind forecast off of the HRRR, basically measuring our strength of the low-level jet. And we noticed that throughout the day today, it's fairly benign, fairly limited right now. That's because actually the trough is still back here. This is ejecting eastward as we were just talking about, and we notice that as this trough ejects eastward, we notice that there's already a nice low-level response by about 22Z. So this is well before dinner time at this point, and we have a strengthening low-level jet out across this area. And then as we head into tonight and about 2 a.m. through tomorrow, we notice the strength of the low-level jet increases. Now, it will move off towards the east, but there is this corridor between about for about a couple of hours where we have a large amount of relative helicity and low-level jet, increasing that low-level flow and increasing photograph size, which ultimately leads to better tornado potential. So there's a window from about 6 p.m. all the way through roughly about 2 a.m. in the morning before that low-level jet generally tries to eject further off towards the east, as this trough is also moving out here. So as it does so, this low-level jet will shift off towards the east, shutting down our tornado threat out across this area. But even still, through about 6 a.m. or about 2 a.m. tomorrow, we still notice that, generally speaking, we have a low-level jet that is roughly about 30 to 40 knots in some locations out across that risk area. So certainly more than supportive for thunderstorms, supercells, and tornadoes. That's, again, why we have that enhanced area for supercells and tornadoes today. So putting this all together in the HRRR forecast, we're looking at the simulated reflectivity, and we'll kind of back this up. We notice that, again, initially, our strong to severe threat will be out here across the Gulf Coast states, Texas into Louisiana today, at least so far. And then again, as this trough begins to eject out from the four corners and into the central high plains here, we notice that what inevitably happens is multiple batches of thunderstorms start to develop, and we'll kind of zoom in on this area. Multiple bands of thunderstorms begin to develop, and again, this is as a response to that increased lifting in the atmosphere, and eventually we get a multitude of thunderstorms to develop. Now, on this particular run here of the HRRR, this actually suggests more of a linear mode of severe storms today, but a few isolated supercells possible, and even back into Texas, some isolated storms possible here. But this is just one model run, so we need to look at another to determine what exactly could happen. So now taking a look at the NAM 3 kilometer to kind of paint the overall picture for today. We'll kind of move this back. Again, general same idea as the HRRR for our southern mode. Now turn our attention back out to the enhanced risk area for today. We notice this is roughly about 19Z, and we have these kind of little strings of cells trying to initiate in this area, and eventually storms initiate as lifting increases, and they initiate in kind of these broken bands of storms today, these broken line segments. And some of these might be mesoscale convective complexes, some of these might be supercells. We kind of notice as we head throughout the early part of this evening and into early tomorrow morning, we notice that this generally evolves as a linear mode similar to the HRRR. Some discrete elements would still be possible, especially within that 10% tornado area, but supercells are not the overwhelming majority threat for today. It does seem like a linear mode for storms would be possible, with some semi-discrete supercells possible, especially in that enhanced risk corridor, and the potential for very large hail as well. So not a huge supercell parameter day, but any storms that can be discrete or semi-discrete would easily have the potential to produce a tornado or two. And for all the reasons we just talked about, in the previous couple of, animations and graphics, this same reason combined with the instability, combined with the shear, could produce a strong tornado if the environmental conditions allow for storms to be more on the discrete side. If not, however, we definitely still have a very prominent damaging wind and large hail threat today with storms that do fire. So with that being said, I do hope you have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley, and I'll talk to you guys again some more over the next several days.